All right, everyone. We're continuing with Siddhartha Chapter 5 called Kamala. We've seen Kamala, or Siddhartha has seen her, very beautiful woman, and he realized it occurred to him. Make sure to watch the previous video to talk about how things occur to you and how this is described. It's very good for when you're talking in English. You could also, here's another word for you, talk about a pivot. Okay, so a pivot is where, like, if you're playing basketball and you step and then turn on that step, like you're going towards the basket, you stop on this foot and turn this way. That's pivoting on this foot. This is my arm, it goes up and down, but what if I turn it like this? I'm pivoting on this, I'm pivoting in this all of a sudden my joint, in this joint, I'm pivoting. Well, in a way, Siddhartha has done a pivot. He was going in one direction, he stopped, and he pivoted this way. There's another one for you. I'm talking about this in my English classes that I'm teaching. Okay, so he learned about Kamala. Okay, now he's entering the town. Then he entered the town. He only had one goal. My cat really, really likes this book. So then he entered the town. He only had one goal. Pursuing it, he surveyed the town. This means he looked around all over the town like you're doing a survey of the town. He surveyed the town, wandered about in a maze of streets, like Delhi. There's streets here in Old Delhi. It's a maze of streets. Stood still in places and rested on the stone steps to the river. These are called ghats. Ghats in Hindi, in India, these steps down to the river. Towards evening, he made friends with a barber's assistant, whom he had seen working in the shade of an arch. He found him again at prayer in the temple of Vishnu. This is one of the main gods of Hinduism, where he related to him stories about Vishnu and Lakshmi. During the night, he slept among the boats on the river. Who are we talking about? Siddhartha. And early in the morning, before the first customers arrived in the shop, he had his beard shaved off by the barber's assistant. A barber is someone that cuts your hair and your beard. He also had his hair combed and rubbed with fine oil. Then he went to bathe in the river. So imagine him. He was a samana. He was in the woods. He let his hair grow into dreadlocks, like Bob Marley. He didn't wash. He didn't take care of himself. He just had a loincloth. But now he's oiling his hair. He's becoming part of society. When the beautiful Kamala was approaching her grove late in the afternoon in her sedan chair, Siddhartha was at the entrance. He bowed and received the courtesan's greeting. He would greet her, and he received her greeting back. He bowed and received the courtesan's greeting. The courtesan is a prostitute, but a wealthy one. He beckoned the servant, who was last in the procession, so last in the parade that Kamala was carried in, last in the procession. He beckoned him and asked him to announce to his mistress, Kamala, that a young Brahmin desired to speak to her. He's still using that he's a Brahmin. Isn't that interesting? After a time, the servant returned, asked Siddhartha to follow him, conducted him silently into a pavilion. Usually this is a open air but covered place, a pavilion, where Kamala lay on a couch and left him. The servant left Siddhartha there. Did you not stand outside yesterday and greet me? Asked Kamala. Yes, indeed. I saw you yesterday and greeted you, said Siddhartha. But you did not have a beard and long hair yesterday. But did you not have a beard and long hair yesterday and dust in your hair? You have observed well. You have seen everything. You have seen Siddhartha, the Brahmin's son, who left his home in order to become a samana, and who was a samana for 3 years. Now, however, I have left that path and have come to this town, and the first person I met before I reached town was you. Now, isn't this strange? He's going to say something else strange. Didn't he meet someone else? He met that other woman, right? Maybe that was before the town, but he says something a little weird here the future as well. This is a little strange. The first person I met before I reached town was you. I have come here to tell you, O Kamala, that you are the first woman to whom Siddhartha has spoken without lowered eyes. Never again will I lower my eyes when I meet a beautiful woman. Lowered eyes means like a samana doesn't want to be tempted. So when he sees a beautiful woman, he lowers his eyes so that her temptation doesn't get into his eyes. Now, this is it's somewhat of a sexist view that women are dangerous or they cause men to feel this way. It puts a lot of responsibility on women that I'm not sure is fair, but we're going along with it. The odd thing is she the first woman that he's greeted without lowering his eyes? He has a woman that he kissed on the breast. This is a little strange, I have to say. I don't know what to make of this, except maybe there's the idea that that wasn't a woman because she was so low. He keeps saying he's a Brahmin, which is the top, and that this is a woman that's not a low caste. There might be some casteism in here. It might also be Hesse's own view that these servants are not exactly people. It might be Hesse's view, but it's a little bit strange. I don't go into a village, see a poor woman, especially one of low caste, and go, oh, that wasn't a woman. And when I meet a rich woman, I go, you're the first woman I've met. It's a little weird, but anyways, let's go with it. Kamala smiled and played with her fan. She's using her fan, made of peacock's feathers, and asked, is that all Siddhartha has come to tell me? I have come to tell you this and to thank you because you are so beautiful. And if it does not displease you, Kamala, I would like to ask you to be my friend and teacher, for I do not know anything about the art of which you are a mistress. What is the art that she is a mistress of? Love, but specifically she's a courtesan. So we're talking about sex. It's interesting. We're going in an interesting direction here. Thereupon Kamala laughed out loud. It has never been my experience that a samana from the woods should come up to me and desire to learn from me. Never has a samana with long hair and an old torn loincloth, this is a cloth that just covers your midsection, should come to me. Many young men come to me, including Brahmin sons, but they come to me in fine clothes, in fine shoes. There's a scent in their hair and money in their purses. This is how young men come to me, O Samana. Siddhartha said, I am already beginning to learn from you. I already learned something yesterday. Already I have got rid of my beard, and I have combed and oiled my hair. There's not much more that is lacking, most excellent lady. What does lacking mean? It means not having. So if I don't have money, I lack money. So he's saying he's done all these things. There's not much more that is lacking, most excellent lady. Fine clothes, fine shoes, money in my purse. Don't those seem like big things? But to Siddhartha, they're not big. Siddhartha has undertaken to achieve more difficult things than these trifles. These are small things, little trifles, and has attained them. He has achieved them. Why should I not attain what I decided to undertake yesterday? To be your friend and to learn the pleasures of love from you. You will find me an apt pupil, Kamala. Apt means quick to learn. You are an apt pupil of science if you are quick to learn science. I have learned more difficult things than what you have to teach me. So Siddhartha is not good enough for you as he is, with oil in his hair, but without clothes, without shoes, and without money. So Siddhartha is acting a bit like an anthropologist. An anthropologist goes to a different culture and slowly learns what they do, but it doesn't totally affect him because he sees it as outside of himself, as culture, as something to be studied. In a way, Siddhartha is an alien, like an alien from outer space coming to learn culture of society, because he's been outside society and he has not been part of it. So he's a bit alien to it. Kamala laughed and said, no, he, meaning Siddhartha, is not very good and is not yet good enough. He must have clothes, fine clothes, and shoes, fine shoes, and plenty of money in his purse, and presents for Kamala. Do you know Samana from the woods? Do you understand? Do you know now, Samana from the woods? Do you understand? I understand very well, cried Siddhartha. So he said, I understand very well, he cried. It means he yelled. How could I fail to understand when it comes from such a mouth? Your mouth is like a freshly cut fig, Kamala. My lips are also red and fresh, and will fit yours. Very well, you will see. So Siddhartha already is very good at talking to someone that he wants to make interested in him. But tell me, fair Kamala, are you not at all afraid of a samana from the forest who has come to learn about love? So he's playing here. He's playing back and forth, just as she will teach him to play back and forth in order to gain someone's interest. Why should I be afraid of a samana, a stupid samana from the forest, who comes from the jackals? Those are like dogs, who does not know anything about women. Oh, the samana is strong, says Siddhartha, and afraid of nothing. He could force you, fair maiden. He could rob you. He could hurt you. It's real. He might be able to do this, right? That's a pretty horrible thing to say to someone, but it is true. The thing that is most dangerous for women is men, right? And this is a very sad thing, but let's go along with the playfulness of this, that he's kind of saying, aren't you scared of me? No, Samana, I'm not afraid. Has a Samana or a Brahmin ever feared that someone could come and strike him and rob him of his knowledge, of his piety, that means religiosity, of his power for depth of thought? Think about this. Can anyone steal your knowledge? No. This is one thing that torture cannot do, that beating someone cannot do. It can't steal your knowledge. It can't steal what you've learned. No, because they belong to himself, and he can only give of them what he wishes, and if he wishes. That is exactly how it is with Kamala and with the pleasures of love. Fair and red are Kamala's lips, but try to kiss them against Kamala's will, and not one drop of sweetness will you obtain from them, although they know well how to give sweetness. You are an apt pupil, Siddhartha. She's noticed that he's he picks up things quickly. So learn also this. One can beg for money. Please give me money. They can buy, be presented with, and find love in the streets, but it can never be stolen. You have misunderstood. Yes, it would be a pity if a fine young man like you misunderstood. What is she saying? This is a little bit hard, so I'm sorry that we're touching on a difficult area here. She's saying you could take me sexually by force, right? But that is a very different thing from love. That's a very, very different thing. You wouldn't have what you're looking for. And the people that do that are usually not looking for love. They're looking for power and something else, something terrible. She can only give the sweetness. It can't be forced upon her. Just like someone can't take Siddhartha's wisdom. Siddhartha bowed and smiled. You are right, Kamala. It would be a pity. It would be a very great pity. No drops of sweetness but must be lost from your lips, nor from mine. So Siddhartha will come again when he has what he is lacking, in clothes, shoes, money. But tell me, fair Kamala, can you not give me a little advice? Kamala says, advice? Why not? Who would not willingly give advice to a poor, ignorant samana who comes from the jackals in the forest? Do you see what's going on here? They're playing with each other back and forth to assess each other. She is impressed because Siddhartha is not talking like he's above her, and he's also not talking like he's below her or scared of her. She is also surprising him because she is actually talking like she's above him. She's not talking like she's below him. She's talking like he's a throwaway, where he's used to being talked about very high. So she's messing with him a little bit. Dear Kamala, where can I go in order to obtain these three things as quickly as possible? What was it? Clothes, shoes, and money, right? My friend, many people want to know that. You must do what you have learned and obtain money, clothes, and shoes for it. A poor man cannot obtain money otherwise. Now notice this is how dialogue works in books. This open quote and close quote. That means it's the end of what the person's saying. When there's a new open quote, it's the other person talking. That's why he's not marking it as Siddhartha said, Kamala said. If the quotes don't close and there's a new line, that's the same person talking. Okay? Makes sense? She asks, what can Siddhartha do to make money? He says, I can think, I can wait, and I can fast. Fasting is not eating. Nothing else? Nothing. Oh, yes, I can compose poetry. Will you give me a kiss for a poem? She says, I will do so if your poem pleases me. What is it called? After thinking a moment, Siddhartha recited this verse. Into her grove went the fair Kamala. At the entrance to the grove stood the brown Samana. As he saw the lotus flower, deeply he bowed. Smiling, acknowledged Kamala. Better, thought the young Samana, to make sacrifices to the fair Kamala than offer sacrifices to the gods. It's better to offer sacrifices to Kamala than to the gods. Kamala clapped her hands loudly so that her gold bangles tinkled as she clapped. Your poetry is very good, brown Samana, and truly there is nothing to lose if I give you a kiss for it. She drew him to her with her eyes. He put his face against hers and placed his lips against hers, which were like a freshly cut fig. I'm getting a little sick of this. He could use something different here. Freshly cut fig over and over. Kamala kissed him deeply, and to Siddhartha's great astonishment, he felt how much she taught him, how clever she was, how she mastered him, repulsed him away, lured him like you're luring a fish. And how after this long kiss, a long series of other kisses, all different, awaited him. After this long kiss, he realized a long series of other kisses, all different, awaited him. This is like when we go to a truly great restaurant and we taste one food and we're like, oh my God, I've never tasted anything like this. And you realize the people that make this food have more available. You're going to taste all different kinds because they are experts. You know from their food, they are truly expert. This is the same he feels about her with love. He stood breathing deeply. At that moment, he was like a child, astonished at the fullness of knowledge and learning which unfolded itself before his eyes. And he is, right? He's never experienced these things before. Remember, he went off to experience. He had hated the world before he even knew it. He's now experiencing it. And he's like a child, even though he's wise and even though he's so knowledgeable. Your poetry is very good, said Kamala. If I were rich, I would give you money for it. But it will be hard for you to earn as much money as you want with poetry, for you will need much money if you want to be Kamala's friend. How you can kiss, Kamala, stammered Siddhartha. Yes, indeed. That is why I'm not lacking in clothes, shoes, bangles, and all sorts of pretty things. What does she sell to get money? Remember, she said poor people have to sell something to make money. She sells herself and her art of love making. But what are you going to do? Cannot you do anything else besides think, fast, and compose poetry? I also know the sacrificial songs, said Siddhartha, but I will not sing them anymore. I also know incantations. These are like magical sayings, but I will not pronounce them anymore. I've read the scriptures. Wait, interrupted Kamala. Do you see how she interrupted? That's when someone's talking and you interrupt them. Wait, she interrupted Kamala. You can read and write? Certainly I can. Many people can do that. He thinks many people can write. He doesn't know what he has, that he is very, very educated. He's not like the poor people. He wants to act like he's poor, but he's not. He's from a rich family that taught him to be a Brahmin. He gets all the privileges of being Brahmin, even though he's poor. He is educated. Not most people, she says. I cannot. Kamala cannot read. It's very good that you know how to read and write. Very good. You might even need the incantations she's planning for him. At that moment, a servant entered and whispered something in the mistress's ear. I have a visitor, said Kamala. Hurry and disappear, Siddhartha. Nobody must see you here. I will see you again tomorrow. Okay, we need to stop here because I've been going a long time. I apologize that this is so long, but their conversation went on a long time. Let's think for a second. I'll also talk about it in the next video. Notice Siddhartha doesn't have anything, but he's quick to learn. Why? Because he's trained his mind. This is a lesson to all of us. We can learn things for tests, and get a degree. But if we train our minds, if we truly grow in knowledge and how to learn, if we know how to learn, that's really what good education teaches you, how to learn. If you know how to learn, that is a treasure. You know how to read, write good essays. You can do that anywhere. You have much more of an ability to do things. That's what we're learning from Siddhartha, what Siddhartha has. We've also learned he's very privileged, even though he's poor right now. He's very privileged in a lot, like we talk about white privilege. He's a Brahmin. Think about how much easier his life is than a poor person that is a low caste or an untouchable. They can't just turn their lives around. Look at how quickly he can turn his life around. A lot of this is because he's a Brahmin. A lot of this, being a Brahmin, he got great education. And he knows how to act in a certain way that society values. And he might even have light skin, if that is valued. A lot of these things privilege certain people. They might both be poor, but one has the ability to do better in a way that's not fair. It's not fair, right? It's not a fair thing. Okay, but that's why when we talk about white privilege, in my country, maybe you've heard that, or in Japan, Japanese privilege, in China, Han Chinese privilege, that you have a much easier time than someone that is Uyghur or Mongolian that's working in China. Maybe they have a little bit more difficult time moving up. Okay, so I've gone on for a long time. I'll cover this again on the next one, and we'll keep going with the rest of, we should be able to get through this chapter. All right, see you guys.